Do you ever think about serious questions, like a real philosopher? Perhaps you do it while commuting, or you prefer doing this being surrounded by nature. Have you caught yourself recently thinking, or in the last 2 years, about upgrading your PC? Also, if you haven't, you clicked on the right video. This is the Gaming Teacher, and let's have a talk why now is prime time for upgrading your PC. I won't be addressing the GPUs, that may be a topic for another video. Well, who is this video for then? Is for anybody who likes to make a rational choice when it comes to spending their hard-earned money. Since Ryzen was introduced in 2017, the CPU market became competitive. AMD was offering more cores while Intel claimed highest clocks. All these years have led to some nice products with big performance gains. The other reason why this is a good time to upgrade is the fact that DDR4 reached end of life. So DDR4 RAM is cheaper compared to its DDR4 counterpart, and not by a small margin. Also, if you go for DDR5 Intel platform, the motherboard costs more, and one thing worth mentioning is future-proofing. Would you really like to spend a lot of money for the first iteration of DDR5? Imagine you did this when DDR4 was the new kid in town. You would be stuck now with a 2133 MHz or maybe 2400 if your CPU could support it. That's why I think that DDR4 is the way to go. Even when Ryzen 7000 is just around the corner, as stressed, we are not going for best performance, but for a price to performance value. Also, Ryzen 7000 for sure will not be cheap. For Intel users, I would suggest to upgrade if you have anything older than 10th gen, except if you have a high-end 9000 CPU like an i7 or an i9. While for AMD, I would say that Ryzen 3000 is the line. Anything older should be changed. Some people might disagree, but hey, why don't you make your own video? This one is mine. If you own an Intel system, you will have to get a new motherboard alongside the CPU and RAM, as Intel doesn't support newer CPUs on older motherboards, unlike AMD. You might be able to reuse the RAM, but I would strongly warn against it, unless you're not a gamer. Then it is alright and you can save some money. Here is the whole list of Intel 12th gen processors. As mentioned, pair it with a DDR4 motherboard. So for the processors, we will neglect the Celeron and Pentium, as those CPUs are obsolete by the time they are designed. Also, we will not bother with anything above an i5, as we are not made out of gold, though we all wish we were. I will address the use case for two types of users, gamers and non-gamers, which are casual user / office worker. So let's sort out the casual users first. We are talking about people that browse internet, do their work, use an office suite or some lightweight programs, and don't require great graphical processing power, so the integrated GPU will suffice. The i3-12100 is an excellent 4-core 8-thread CPU that can manage any amount of Chrome tabs, Excel sheets, and endless emails on Outlook. If, however, you would prefer something with a bit more oomph, with a better longevity in mind, the i5-12400 is the choice to go. Its 6-core and 12 threads have similar performance to many older 8-core and 16-thread CPUs. Now for the Intel fanboys. If you're on a tight budget and don't mind not having the perks of an integrated GPU, go for the 12100F. Don't let the fact that it's a 4-core CPU fool you. It trades blows in games with the i5-11400, which is a last-gen 6-core. For the vast majority of gamers, I would suggest the i5-12400. Get the F variant, though I find it that having an integrated GPU might come in handy at times. This CPU runs any game like a champ and will provide that experience for some years to come. If you also do some content creation or you want to have something better, get the 12600K, as it gives you 4 more efficiency cores. The i3-12300 and i5's 12500 and 12600 non-K are not worth, as the performance difference is much smaller than the price difference. In that case, you are just better off paying a bit more money and getting a higher tier CPU. When it comes to motherboards, for any 12100 I would suggest an H610, as it doesn't make sense to spend more money on the motherboard than on the CPU, except if you need PCI 4.0 for data transfer or some other shenanigans. Then you should take a B660, which I recommend for all other processors here. And when it comes to RAM, the casual user should get at least 8 GB, while gamers should get 16. Now let's have a look at AMD's offering. Here we will have to look at the 5000 series CPU alongside the refreshed new CPUs. Please ignore the marked out CPUs, those are from the 3000 series. We will have to ignore the 4100 and 4500, as their performance is very bad and the fact that they don't have an integrated GPU doesn't make them attractive at all. For casual users, the choices here are not as economical when it comes to the CPUs, but they do make it up when it comes to the motherboard departments, as those are cheaper than the Intel counterpart. So the cheapest APU, that's how AMD calls their CPUs with integrated graphics, is the 4600G, which is a 6-core 12-thread CPU. The 5600G is a better version of it. If, however, you need more cores, the 5700G should take care of any of your tasks with its 8 cores and 16 threads. Also worth mentioning is that all of these integrated GPUs can handle some modern games at moderate settings. So, let's go to the gamers now. The gamers will of course be interested in the non-G variants. The other 4000 CPU sucks for gaming, so if you don't need PCI 4.0 and are on a tight budget, I would suggest taking the 5500 alongside a B450 motherboard. Though if you can afford a B550, go for it, as it will make your life easier if you plan to upgrade components down the line. So the main option here, like the go-to, would be the Ryzen 5600 or the 5600X. They offer similar performance, though the X gives a bit more. Both support PCI 4.0, so you are fine with that. However, if you need more cores than just 6, the Ryzen 5700X is the way to go. It is basically a 5800X, just a little bit slower. Well, for motherboards, the casual user should either get an i520 or a B450. Be careful because some models might require BIOS updates, so I would suggest that for an easy experience you search for those that have a BIOS flashing button. I know for sure that MSI does. So gamers can also take a B450 if it's paired with a Ryzen 5500, or if you don't care about PCI 4.0, so you can save some money. Otherwise, B550 is the way to go with any Ryzen 5600 or above. If you own a Ryzen system already, just check which CPUs does your motherboard support with the new BIOS updates and get that CPU instead. Also remember to upgrade your BIOS. Before you make a pick, do your own research, as this was just a general overview by a tech lover. However, I hope that you found this entertaining and useful. If you did, please consider sharing it, giving it a like. It would mean the world to me. Have a great day, and until next time.